Well, now that I'm on a motorway, I've got a bit of time, so I guess we'll discuss another pet topic of mine, which is why there are so few electric cars in Australia currently. In a previous video, I did mention that as of 2016, I know these figures are at least 18 months old, but in 2016, there were less than 1,000 electric vehicles, and in particular Teslas, on the road currently in Australia. Now Tesla doesn't release its public sales figures publicly, so it's hard to know exactly, but at last estimate it was about 1,000 or less electric vehicles. Now I know in 2017 there were more Model X's bought, so that could potentially have risen to close to 1,000, if not a little bit more, but again, I can compare that to the Mercedes E-Class, which is an equivalent kind of car in terms of cost, and size and luxury level, if you can call it that. Now Mercedes sold almost 2,000 of those vehicles in 2017, so I guess the question is, if there is a market to support that price of vehicle, why there are still so few electric cars on the road currently. I mean, in Sydney I occasionally will see the odd Model S, I certainly see a few more Model X's around, but that's quite rare, probably maybe see 1 or 2 max in a day, and I travel quite a bit. I travel about 65 kilometers a day on average since I've had my Tesla for the last 18 months. I read an article in the paper yesterday that said that in China, which is one of the biggest electric vehicle markets probably after the United States of America, there are 1.3 million electric vehicles currently on the road in China. Now that figure to me is just mind-blowing, considering the fact that Australia in 2017, only 99,000 vehicles, that's including all types of vehicles, were sold in this country. So that's astounding, really. 1.3 million. I mean, the article went on to talk about how there was a lot more infrastructure in that country, a lot more locally produced electric vehicles, so certainly that market has taken off and people there are embracing the electric vehicle. Why not so much in this country? I think there are a couple of issues which, having talked to my friends and colleagues at work and family about why people don't purchase electric vehicles currently in Australia, I think range anxiety is the big one. People are worried about running out of charge. To be honest, I guess most people don't travel that much to work if they're going to use their car. The average person will travel half an hour to an hour in Sydney at least to work if they use their car. And if in Sydney in peak hour, for an hour, you're only going to travel about 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers, absolute maximum from home to your workplace. So, even at 30 kilometers times 2, 60 kilometer round journey like myself, you're not really going to run out of charge realistically, even in a base Model S, which is got a range of about 400 kilometers. So locally, that's not really an issue. People talk about road trips. I go on a road trip maybe at best once, max twice a year. And the supercharger network in Australia currently is getting there. It's pretty good. You can drive pretty much from Brisbane all the way down to Melbourne, and encounter a supercharger every 200 kilometers. So for a quick coffee stop, and legally, I guess you should be stopping for a break anyway every 2 hours. So again, that's not really an argument where you have to stop, and you should stop for a break, and you can recharge at the same time. On average, I think Tesla quotes you can recharge 200 kilometers in about 20 minutes, depending on how many people are using that supercharger currently, and what part of the cycle you are in the battery life. So that's not really an argument. You can do a road trip, that's not a problem. And certainly on our roads in Australia, there aren't that many service stations. For example, from the drive from Sydney to Canberra, which is probably one of the shorter road trips and a very popular stretch of road in this country, there's only really 2 or 3 petrol or gasoline stops on the way to Canberra. So, and an electric vehicle, there's 1 stop. So, it's quite comparable. People don't really stop every 5 minutes to fill up their car on a road trip. We talked a bit about price. The equivalent car internal combustion engine car is I always use the Mercedes E-Class, and that retails on the road at about $130,000, which is about the same price as a Tesla Model S base level entry model car. If you buy a Mercedes E-Class, you'll get a nice size saloon, but it still uses gasoline or petrol, and at premium unleaded prices, which currently in Sydney is more than $1.50 a litre. And if you travel as much as the average commuter in Sydney, which is filling up your tank once a week, you're going to pay about $70 a week in petrol alone, and that is without factoring in weekend trips or road trips on top of that. So you're going to be at least $2,000, if not up to $3,000 a year in petrol or gasoline. Now that's quite a lot of money over the lifetime of the average loan, which is about 5 years for purchasing a vehicle. So over 5 years, you're going to have to pay another $15,000 on top of your $130,000 for your car. And that's not negligible. That's about 10% of your purchase price. Not to mention the fact that, to be fair, electric vehicles don't break down as much because there are less moving parts. I think I read somewhere that a Tesla has about 20 moving parts in the whole car, in terms of the actual running part of the car. Like we're talking about the motor and the battery, whereas I think there's about 2,000 moving parts in a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. So you can understand why a car needs to be serviced every 6 months, and things like oil needs to be changed, filters need to be changed, brake pads need to be changed, just tune-ups, suspensions, all those kind of things, which Tesla doesn't really need as much. I've only had my car admittedly for 18 months, and I guess realistically Tesla's only been around in mainstream use for about 3 years, so it's hard to say for now. But just on the general vibe of it, and reading up on various forums and on websites, most people don't have any issues with it. Only minor things like wiper blades might not be right, a bit squeaky, or for example, my door handle has the automatic mechanism has been a bit of an issue, so I've had to change that, but that took a day. Wasn't too bad. So small little minor things which don't affect the day-to-day running of the car. Certainly my oil is not going to run out, or and even with the regenerative braking, the brake pads won't really get that much wear. So price is not an issue. Range anxiety, you can certainly get around it. So they're kind of the big issues. And I guess one more intangible kind of quality is the worry that Australians have that the electric vehicle may not, quote unquote, take off in this country. Now I know Australians are a little bit slow in taking up, or certainly not slow, but more conservative in just to seeing what the rest of the world does with regards to new tech. And that's fair enough. We're a small country in terms of population, and even on an economic scale, we may not have the infrastructure to support economies of scale. So we certainly can't put in a lot of superchargers like they do in America or China. Even we just don't have that population to support that kind of commercial viability. So I guess people are worried that if they invest in a Tesla, it might go broke, or the company might go broke. Or there just isn't enough to support it. And I guess that's a fair enough worry. So I guess this is part of the reason why I'm doing these videos, just to encourage the use of the electric vehicle, and to just tell you the benefits of using one. I certainly haven't woken up any day in the last 18 months and gone, I wish I hadn't bought this car. It's certainly the best car I've driven. It feels the safest, it feels the quietest. Certainly more expensive than the average car that I've bought, but just doing the maths, and I'm certainly a mathematical person, I like working out what the costs are, and the efficiency and the value of anything I purchase. So I've worked out that yes, I'm certainly, it's good for the environment, and I like to be forward thinking in what I purchase, but even from an economic point of view, I think it's still a better value car than buying any other luxury vehicle in a similar class. So thanks for listening. I will keep thinking of reasons why Australia hasn't taken up the electric vehicle as much as I thought it would have in the last 2 years, and I shall get back to you. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching, and thank you for helping us to bring the electric vehicle revolution to Australia. If you've enjoyed our videos, please take a moment to hit subscribe. We really appreciate it. If you're close to buying a brand new Tesla, then lucky you. Use one of our promo codes on screen to unlock special goodies from Tesla. Happy charging!